When you're like a kid, you don't really grasp games as much. You'll like run around the same like beginning area and it's like, oh well, type of a thing.
A lot of the time, I guess whenever you think of like TV show tie-in games, you feel like they're not going to be super ambitious. I actually found the fact you're kind of collecting words and everything, and those being the items, that was like a super unique idea for a game. Like that would hold up even if it wasn't kind of tied into an anime property.
What's your favorite game? Come on the show, let me pick your brain. We've all got favorite games. No takes too insane here on Your Fave Game.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Josh Busker, and welcome to another episode of Your Fave Game, the online talk show where we chat with some of the most creative people from across the internet and ask them one of the most difficult questions in the world: what's your favorite game? Today we are joined by GlassesJournal, a fellow Canadian and VTuber known for their cozy and entertaining streams on Twitch, and with over $16,000 raised for charity with their gaming community. How are you doing today, Glasses?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I had the day off work, so it was just a nice, relaxing summer day.
Oh, I love that. The weather's been
Yeah.
pretty nice too in Canada, so
Yeah, it's been pretty
very
good.
nice.
Mosquitoes were a little bit more than I would have wanted, but other than that, the one complaint is all I have.
Yeah.
So we are here today to talk about your favorite game, and I guess
Yes.
before we get into it, how tough a question was this?
Not that tough. I had to think about it for like a little bit, but then I was like, this is a no-brainer. That came immediately into my head.
Because you were one that actually you kind of submitted to me your favorite game over on Twitter, and I saw it. I was like, that's a really interesting choice, because
Yes.
a lot of people just, there's some big games that immediately, like Final Fantasy VII or like Ocarina of Time, which are fantastic games, but yours stuck out to me because it seems like a very personal choice, and I'm really kind of
Yes.
interested to dig into that.
Exactly.
So why don't you tell the folks at home what your favorite game is?
My favorite game is Hamtaro Heartbreak.
Nice. And so that's a Gameboy Advance game.
It is.
Could you give a quick little pitch to the audience, or just explain to anyone who's never heard of this game before?
All right. I got this. So the premise of Hamtaro Heartbreak, if you're a big fan of hamsters and very just cute, adorable aesthetics, Hamtaro Heartbreak is for you. You play as Hamtaro. He's a very cute, adorable little hamster, and you also play as his supposed girlfriend, Bijou. And together, you essentially have to go through a bunch of different worlds and stuff and basically save love,
Oh my God.
because there's an evil guy named Spat and he wants nothing to do with love. And so you basically just have to go around and like pair couples back together after they've like broken up essentially. And yeah, you just basically have to save the day before Spat takes over and destroys all love.
Oh no, I love love. So
I
that's
know.
so you go around playing matchmaker to a
You
whole bunch of
essentially
different
do.
hamsters.
Yes.
No, that's fantastic. So this isn't a game that I myself had really played before,
Mhm.
but for some reason I did know that I think there's multiple kind of Hamtaro games for both the Game Boy
There
Color
are.
and Game Boy Advance.
Yes. So there's the first one, which came out on the Game Boy Color. I played that one as well. That one's also one of my favorites too. It's just called Hamtaro Ham's Adventures. There's the GBA one, which is my favorite, Hamtaro Ham Heartbreak. And then I
Mhm.
believe there's a DS one as well, where it's like a sports one. I
Oh,
unfortunately
okay.
haven't played that one. I cannot give you my review on it or anything, but I hear through the grapevine that it is good though.
Yeah, it's one of those things I've always kind of heard, is that actually the Hamtaro portable games are all really good.
Yes.
Maybe there's also good home console ones, not to like make fun of those or anything, but the portable ones in particular, those are the ones that I always just heard stories of people like being really into those on the playground and everything.
Mhm.
So yeah, are you, I'm guessing you're a big fan of kind of the show in general, or was it just kind of the games that you were really into?
I first watched the show when I was a kid. So the show came out in like, I believe it was like 1999, 2000. over in like Canada and stuff. And yeah, I love the show. I was like, oh, this is so cute. There was like a bunch of different hamsters. So you have obviously Hamtaro and Bijou, who are like the two like main characters of the show. And then there's like a whole like different selection of like each and every different hamsters as well. You got Boss, he's like the head of the hamster like hangout spot. You got the twins, Sandy and Stan. You have the sisterly duo, which is Pashmina and Penelope. You have a little builder hamster named Panda. He's my favorite. I don't know why. He's just very, very cute. I love him. You also have Maxwell, you have Howdy and Dexter, who are two hamsters that are like pining after Pashmina's like affection as well. You have Zuzu, and he's just a little hamster that sleeps. And then you have Jingle, and he just plays the guitar, and they just go on little wacky adventures while their owners are basically at school.
Oh man. So Hamtaro, again, it's not a show that I've seen like a lot of full episodes of, but it's very much from like the same era of like watching stuff on YTV. Like I was big into Digimon and Pokemon and everything.
Yes.
And then just that specific like millennial Saturday morning TV era.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, yeah, you were like listing through the hamsters right there. I was like, oh yeah, the boss hamster. Like I remember seeing like clips of him, or like you'd watch like the last 10 minutes of an episode before something else was on. And
yeah, exactly.
All these hamsters popping back into my head.
They're coming back.
So for the actual game for Hamtaro's Ham Heartbreak, I did check it out a little bit before this interview because I wanted to see like what's the actual gameplay like.
Yes.
And I was actually really interested because a lot of the time, I guess whenever you think of like TV show tie-in games, you feel like they're not going to be super ambitious. They're going to take kind of gameplay from other games and put like the Hamtaro kind of layer over that.
Yes.
But I actually found the fact you're kind of collecting words and everything, and those being the items, that was like a super unique idea for a game. Like that would hold up even if it wasn't kind of tied into an anime property.
Oh, for sure.
So do you want to talk about the gameplay a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So it's similar to the first game of the Hamtaro series where you go around and essentially you're collecting words because there's essentially like this dictionary. It's called like the Ham Dictionary, and it has all these different bunch of words that are called ham chats, which are like their way of communicating in the world. So like a very popular one is ham ha, which is like a hello type of a thing. So similar premise in Ham Heartbreak, except obviously you're dealing with this love factor as well. But the ham chats also play an important role where you have to go around and collect the words to like solve the puzzles and stuff like that. So for example, you can use like ham ha to say like hi to different hamsters. There's one called hif hif, which is you pick stuff up with it. You can like smell for sunflower seeds. You can get acorns. There's tai kui, which is called roll essentially. And you can roll into things. You can roll into other hamsters as well. Roll into like sunflowers and all that different stuff to, get where you need to go, break down rocks if you need to. And then there's also dig dig, which is, digging up stuff as well too. But then you get like very, very like specific ones as well, which is always very, very funny. I'm going to pull up some of them just because like some of them I'm like, would never like use these words in a day-to-day situation, but hey, it works. So there's some like smoochy, which means like love. There's like hey hoo, which is like a call out. Hardy har, which is laugh. Ham solo, which is lonely. Good go. Good luck. There's like this whole language essentially.
I think that's really cool how like obviously some of those words like would be kind of the solution. Like I need this word just for this one puzzle.
Exactly.
But then they do have those ones that are kind of like main gameplay features. Like sniffing like has a whole lot of different kind of puzzle solutions. And it's a really interesting way to kind of do the point and click adventure game thing of like, oh, I need this item to go here. But in this, it's like actual concepts and words and like,
exactly.
it's such a charming way to kind of structure a puzzle game, and so I thought that was really cool, kind of researching this.
Exactly. And I would get excited as well if I was like going up to have a conversation with like one of the hamsters and you'd see like a question mark at the bottom, which means that like you don't have that word unlocked yet. And it's like, oh, what's this word going to be? And then you forget about it. But then like you'll come back later and you're like, you see the word when you talk to the hamster again has now been fulfilled. And it's like, I can use this word now.
Mm.
They were looking for this word in particular. And it's like, that's pretty exciting as well.
Yeah. That's super, super cool. Yeah, obviously you have a connection with the TV show.
Mhm.
Is there anything else like in particular about the game that makes it like stand out like against all other kind of video games and had it like jump into your head as, oh, this is my favorite right off the bat?
I think replayability. I used to play this game like so much as a kid.
Mm.
When I got my Game Boy Advance, it was like one of the first few games that I got. I had obviously a Game Boy as well too. I'm gonna age myself, but that's fine. Had a Game Boy as well. That was like my first ever like handheld console. I loved it dearly, but when you're like a kid, you don't really grasp games as much. You'll like run around the same like beginning area, and it's like, oh
Yes.
well, type of a thing. So when get over to the Game Boy Advance, it's like, oh, I have like some little bit of knowledge to actually like understand how to play the game. And it was like one of the first like few games that I like beat essentially when I was a kid, and I was very proud of
Mm.
myself for doing that. And then I would just like, all right, let's do another round of it and just like continuously play the game. The story is also really cute as well. The graphics are adorable, and I just overall had a really nice time with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that first game that you actually like kind of realize like, oh, this is a challenge to kind of beat,
Mhm.
or like figuring out what rolling the credits kind of means. That's a big thing. One of my
Exactly.
previous episodes, I actually got to talk about how Ocarina of Time was like that game for me, where it's the first one where it's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna save that
Yes.
princess. Yeah.
Exactly. That accomplishment feeling. I never actually like 100% that game because it was so difficult to get like the last ham
Mm,
chat, and you
yeah.
have to do a very specific thing. And so as a kid, obviously I didn't have access to the internet, so I never knew how to get that until like recently I played it on
Ah.
stream and I got it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to like cry. Like I finally did it." My like
Yeah,
past self would be so
years
proud.
worth of buildup has like led to
Exactly.
this moment. Yeah.
Yes.
um yeah, and it's really interesting always looking back at the games that we were super into as kids. There's
Mhm.
actually there's a tweet going around at the moment that
Mhm.
I related to super hard because it was the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, and
Yes.
someone was posting this little area of the oh my god, I'm blanking on the name of the town.
Rougeport.
Yeah,
Yep.
Rougeport. Just this one little like kind of back corner, and the tweet was like, oh, back when I was a kid, I used to
Yes.
pretend this was Mario's house, and then they had
Yes.
found that spot again in the remake,
Yes.
and that was like the purest, like, yeah, that's how you play games when you're a kid. Like, you
That
don't care about
is.
beating them or like getting stronger or anything. You're
Nope.
making your own fun. And there's yeah, just whenever you mentioned the fact that like yeah, the Game Boy Color one, you didn't necessarily like even know like how to progress in it, but you just enjoyed walking around in it. That just immediately brought that to mind.
Yes. Making up your little stories of them and everything. Yeah.
It's so cool. And then and especially with Hamtaro, you also have like the TV show alongside that. So you get to
Mhm.
watch that and like be engrossed in that world. And then it's like, oh well, the 30-minute episode's done. I'm gonna hang out with these guys for 4 more hours of my Game
Exactly. I'm
Boy.
gonna grab them on the go type of a thing.
The other thing that kind of sparked my interest was having a Game Boy was a big deal back then.
It was.
Not to get into us old millennials just reminiscing, but yeah, having like a portable console back in the day felt super big, and you wouldn't have like a lot of games for it, so you would
No.
just it was just you'd have like one game that you get to play on the bus or something like that, and it was again that just kind of hanging out. You weren't even like trying to progress it because a lot of these games were like shorter back
Mhm.
then, or had to be like in the limitations of a Game Boy. But there was just something like super cozy and just hanging out in these games that was
For
very
sure, for sure. I remember even like in the Hamtaro, like Ham Heartbreak game, I would like only progress to a certain point, and then I was like stuck, and I was like, I don't know how to beat this part. So I would just restart the game and then just continuously go up to that point where I would get stuck and then continuously restart again, which is
Yeah.
exactly what I did with so many other games, even on like the Game Boy as well. I remember I played the same Toy Story map, just like the level over and over again because I couldn't figure out how
Yep.
to progress to the next part.
Oh god, The Lion King for the Super
Oh my
Nintendo
gosh,
is
yes.
one of those games where it's like, I know the first 2 levels of this like the back of my hand.
Yep.
Have only seen the 3rd level like twice. So-
Yep, like maybe a few times I've seen this.
oh god, there's another game, Final Fight, which I didn't even see like the last few levels of that game until years later, like having to look up on YouTube and was like, oh
Yep.
wait, there was more to this game? What?
I would play also Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I would play, I want to say the first 10 minutes of the game, and then it gets to like this open map world, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I would reset the game, start a brand new character, get to that 10-minute point, and then reset it again. So I would only see the first 10 minutes.
I just really like tutorial villages.
Exactly. I just really like this place. No, that's exactly how you feel as a kid. Just like making up your own stories and everything like that and just having a good time.
Yeah, and it's also like when you're a kid, you can't just go to the store and like buy a new video game.
No.
Like there's none of that. It's whatever games your parents bought for you. That was what you had. And you could maybe ask for something for Christmas and maybe get like a big game you're looking forward to every now and then. But you kind of had to make do with what you had. We didn't have any of this like Game Pass or any of these subscription services all the kids these days get to have.
Exactly. And you also didn't have like, you didn't really pay attention to the reviews or anything. You mostly paid attention to like the box art. Like the box art looked really cool. It's like, oh, I'm going to play this game because of how the box art looked. And I'm pretty sure that's how I ended up playing the Hamtaro games as well. Where it's like, oh, this is like, I recognize that character for one, but the box art is also really cute as well. So let me pick up this game and play it for the next, how many hours.
Yeah. He's got a little hat. This game has to be a 10 out of 10.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that just brought me back as well. Whenever like the back of a video games box was all you had to go on.
Yep.
8 exciting levels. That sounds great.
That sounds great. Or the little guide as well too. If you got a brand new game, you would open it up and just read the guide on the way home from the game store. Oh.
Yeah, his little instruction manual.
Yes.
So you said that the Game Boy, was it Game Boy or Game Boy Color, the predecessor kind of
Game Boy Color.
Yeah. So that also had the kind of words mechanic.
Yes.
I sorry for focusing on that too much, but that was
you're
like
fine.
kind of the.
I'll talk about both.
Yeah, that was or it's just really interesting to me that it's such like a unique, specific mechanic, and it came out of these like anime tie-in games, and that they apparently also like took from one game and then improved or like built upon it to have that kind of love mechanic in the sequel.
The first game is very much like you don't even play as Bijou in the first game. You play as just Hamtaro, and your goal is to just find all the different like hamsters and bring them all back to the clubhouse, essentially, because that's what Boss wants you to do. While the second one has you working with Bijou to like obviously save a bunch of different hamsters. Not even like the main cast, really. It's like their own little stories as well. And then find all the different ham chats as well.
Yeah, so they like flat out added a new character to the Game Boy Advance one. They added kind of that love mechanic. And I just did a little fact check because I wanted to see whether this game came out first or Minish Cap. Because whenever you're talking about like the love and matchmaking kind of aspect of the game, have you played Zelda the Minish Cap?
I love Minish Cap. Minish Cap is also one of my favorite games too.
Yeah, Minish Cap is fantastic. Very, very good Zelda game. A very unique, like, stands on its own, like, type Zelda game.
It does.
But the kinstone mechanic in that has always been one of the really cool things. And like, oh, this character needs to meet this character to solve their problems and everything.
Yes.
But now just looking kind of at the Wikipedia for release dates, it looks like Ham Heartbreak might have beaten them to the punch by a couple years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's super interesting because that is a really, for these adventure games where you're kind of hanging out in a world and like, yeah, getting these not just solving an NPC's problem directly, but like
Mm-hmm.
getting two NPCs to like meet up or solve their problems together.
Mm-hmm.
That feels very Zelda to me.
For
And so it's
sure.
kind of interesting that they kind of did it first.
It's so funny that you also mentioned Zelda as well because there's like a main side quest in Hamtaro Heartbreak. Spoilers in case anybody like really wants to play this. But you essentially for like the end of the game, you have to collect like this legendary item. And so you have to go around and collect these like little orbs, which are very clearly like the things that you would get from Legend of Zelda. So it's like the red one, the blue one,
Yeah,
the
the
green
little
one, and you're like,
pendants. Yeah.
okay. And so you bring them all together in this like pedestal that's like very reminiscent of like the Master Sword. And you pull essentially this sword out. It's a spoon, not a sword, because
Oh,
this is
I
a
love that.
children's game. But it's like
Yes.
this whole thing that you have to get. And I'm like, all right, this is very Zelda coded, which is hilarious.
I love that though. Like making
Yes.
like Zelda's already like kids can play Zelda, but like aimed even like a little bit more and like even being more of kind of like an entry point that kids can be like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, adventure and the big mystical artifact you need to get slightly less mystical artifacts to get
Yes,
beforehand.
exactly.
Um, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, just out of curiosity, what would your favorite Zelda game be?
Probably Minish Cap is definitely up there. I also enjoy Twilight Princess and I also enjoy Wind Waker. I
Mhm.
feel like those are my top three
Yes, that was a really good era for Zelda. Just
for
the
sure.
GameCube Zeldas are fantastic, and yeah, Minish Cap is just lovely little portable version, and just yeah, stands on its own so
It
well.
does. I would only play the first level of Minish Cap as well. Over and over. I would get to the grass temple. I would defeat the green choo choo. And I'm like, that's enough of the game for me. And restart it over.
We defeated the greatest evil, the green choo choo, and so
Exactly.
time to do this again. Yeah, no, I actually for most Zelda games, I feel like the first dungeon, I've probably played that like 10 times more than any of the rest of the game,
Yep.
just because it's just so easy to like start a new file. Okay, I'm gonna name this one Link 3 or something like that and just hop
Exactly.
right back into it.
And then it also like relates back to the whole like playing as well too, like in the game when you're as a kid, because you would just, go back to that
Hmm.
first level and it's like, oh, I'm gonna make up this story in my head. So I would like
Yes.
make up
Yep.
stories in my head about like, like, oh, Hamtaro and Bijou are gonna go and do this and this. There's like a little one of the levels is like a theme park. So I'd be like, oh, Hamtaro and Bijou are gonna go on a date together and we go all and ride all the rides together and everything. We would get balloons, we would eat popcorn, and it's like, oh my gosh, just thinking about that is hilarious in my head.
No, I could definitely relate to that because there
Yep.
it was almost like role playing a little bit where like
Yes.
I'm Link today and today Link's going to explore the Lost Woods before even trying to do anything else and
Exactly.
just yeah. And that was how you got your fun, and
That was.
I don't even know if you like kids these days kind of can do that because everything's so filtered through the internet, or
It
like
is,
if
yeah.
you're playing a game you're also going to be like recommended stuff about it on YouTube, and then you're going to see like people telling you exactly what you should be doing, or like what's
Exactly.
what's the best way to get past this first dungeon. And
Mhm.
meanwhile it's like, what if I don't want to get past that dungeon?
Yeah, what if I just want to vibe in the first dungeon and then restart
It-
the game over again?
it's good cozy vibes there.
Exactly.
Kind of pivoting a little bit,
Mhm.
but you're a VTuber,
I am.
and I think it's super cool, kind of the entire scene that's popped up with both VTubers and like cozy streams in general,
Mhm.
and these games from this specific era, and
Yes.
just that is like a whole kind of industry these days is not even just focusing on like there is like more modern games that are very cozy like
For
Stardew
sure.
Valley and
Yep.
like things like that, um, but it seems like there's specific eras that are really really kind of suited for this whole like cozy stream
Mhm.
idea. So do you want to get into a little bit of like how you started streaming?
Yeah, sure. So I first started streaming back in like 2019. and it didn't really go off well. I just wanted to do it to like try it out and see how it did. I didn't have like the proper setup or anything, and I was like, you know what? Dip my feet in the water. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not for me, sort of a thing. And then I came back in 2021 and was like, you know what? I'm actually going to try again. I was recently let go from like a previous job that I really enjoyed. I was working, part-time at a company, not really making like a lot of money. So I was like, okay, maybe like streaming could be like a good financial thing. And I also get to try out and just play video games for fun. And so basically, I've been streaming since 2021. It's been a lot of fun. And I think it's been really fun as well, too, to just play games from my childhood and just experience with it with my community. So we recently went through the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, for example. And I was just like telling my chat, like, I would play this so much on the GameCube. I remember this, this, and this. And hey, if you can imagine, I didn't beat that game as a kid because I would replay the same 3 levels over and over. I would get up to like, I think it was Twilight Town, and then I'd stop and then replay it again. Hey, at least I played like the best chapter, the Glitz Pit. So I at least played
you at
that.
least got that.
At least did that. But I was just like reminiscing with it, and I think a lot of people like really appreciated that, where it's like I get to play like games that I really liked as a child that maybe not everybody could appreciate. Maybe they didn't have the console or anything like that. Maybe they couldn't, like never heard of the game as well, and just like showcase them and just like shower them with love and praise and whatnot. But yeah, I mostly just stream like cozy games. I play a lot of farming sims. I do a lot of Pokemon as well because I love Pokemon. Mareep's my favorite Pokemon and everything.
Yeah.
And I always say I just play whatever I feel like playing, TBH.
That's the best way to do it.
It is.
Pokemon in particular, those are really nice games to stream. They're just very good gameplay loop. You can focus kind of on your chat and your community like a lot while you're doing it, or like doing randomizers or running for shinies or any
Nuzlocke, anything.
Yeah, any way that you could play Pokemon kind of like works well with the streaming setup.
Exactly.
And yeah, for me, so I initially was like just a YouTuber. I had some videos, April Fool's joke, go viral, and got some like decent attention from that. And I kind of started streaming a few years after that.
Yes.
Just because I found the YouTube thing to be a little bit like too solo. Like I was getting a lot of views on videos and everything, and you'd get like comments, but there wasn't as much of like a personal connection kind of with the games or what I was putting out. And then, so I started doing streaming as just like a side thing that if people in the community like did want to watch that, they could. And I quickly kind of found I was like, oh, I really, really enjoy this type of content, because it was so different from like having a video go viral and be like outside your sphere and just everyone's looking at it, compared to just having like 50 to 100 people like hanging out, and I'm getting to like replay through Twilight Princess with them and like just having that like audience that's just at the nice size where like you can read everything that comes into chat. And just it's so nice. There's tons of great streamers with like huge communities and everything, but I don't know if I'd ever want like my chat to go by like faster where I couldn't like see everything.
For sure. My main job that I usually do is I'm a community manager. So I'm a community manager for a Twitch partner, Rainer Vase Jr. Shout out to my boss.
Nice. Yeah.
He usually ranges between like 2,000 to 3,000 like people watching the stream. Doesn't mean everybody's talking in chat at once, but the chat does go by quickly. And what I noticed when I stream, I don't have like as big as numbers as he does, but what I notice is that people from his community will come over to mine and they'll be like, they'll talk in there because they feel like it's a lot more comfortable. There's not that many people talking at once. And what's really, really sweet is sometimes that they will feel so comfortable enough that they'll then start talking in Ray's community and like the bigger streamers as well, because they've like,
oh, that's nice,
essentially like built this like comfort and whatnot, and like they feel more confident to talk and everything, and it just like it makes my heart really warm.
Yeah. No, because like if you're trying to chat in like a huge streamer's chat, it feels like you're just kind of throwing your opinion like out into the wind because there's so much like stuff going through. But
Exactly.
like getting a response to everything just kind of, yeah, it's such a different experience.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I appreciate kind of like the cozy stream vibes, and yeah,
Yes.
just so many of like the Nintendo games from the era.
Yep.
Like it's both nostalgia because that's what we grew up with, and it's
Mhm.
easy for us to kind of talk for hours about like how great Twilight Princess is.
For sure.
Uh, but just the games in general are like fun to watch, and they haven't like aged out of being
They really
entertaining.
haven't.
Even
No.
yeah,
Just like the graphics are still like looking great and stuff like that, just as like what it used to. Obviously, some of them like might have aged, but I
Mhm.
still appreciate those graphics more so than I feel like I appreciate the graphics that we have now, where everything's so like hyper realistic and stuff. I feel like they
Yeah.
just have like a very nice charm to them,
Yeah, no, the
essentially.
art direction like lets them still absolutely hold up. So you said you have played the Hamtaro game kind of on stream. Was there any like reactions from your chat to that compared to like kind of bigger Nintendo games or anything like that?
I think a lot of people like didn't know what Hamtaro was.
It's not as like big a or it, I don't know if they've done like reboots or like do they do new Hamtaro like shows or
No,
anything these
I
days?
feel like they haven't. It's just like it's just
Ah.
there. There was an anime and then it kind of ended and that was basically it. But it is cute every once in a while like seeing it like pop up on like my feed of like, like somebody playing it or somebody doing like fan art of it. And it's just like,
Mm.
"Oh, there it is. That cute little game." Um the reaction to it was like I said, it was just very much a lot of people being like, "Oh, I've never like heard of this game before." And they just found it like really cute, like the whole mechanic. They really liked all the different ham chats as well, and just like the different ways to say a bunch of stuff. And so like a few of them
Mhm.
would like, come into stream if I was playing and they'd be like, "Oh, ham ha," because saying hello and stuff like that. It was
Yeah.
really cute.
It's nice when you kind of have like those personal games because again
Yeah,
like stuff like Zelda, like tons of people just already know Zelda, like loads of people are going to list every single Zelda is probably going to be on someone's like favorite game list.
hmm,
But when you have these more like personal ones, it can become like a community thing, like, oh, this is our game, or this
exactly.
is one of our ones.
Or you just have people as well just be like, "Oh my gosh, I remember playing this game when I was a kid," or "I borrowed it from like my friend," or something like that, or "I saw it in a magazine
Yeah.
as well." Yeah, those ones are also really, really cute. Had a lot of new chatters come in and being like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen this game in like so long," and would just like chat about it with me as well. Like they're telling me their favorite hamsters, or if I
Ah,
played like the other previous ones as well. And it's just like you'd have a really good time just chatting about it.
again, it was that thing like during that era, if you were a kid during that era, we didn't have much control over like what games we had. So if you
Yep.
found someone else that like had the same game as you,
Yep.
that was like, oh my gosh, like what did you do at this part? Or like, there's just so much stuff you can bond over.
Yep. Yeah, nobody on my playground was playing the Hamtaro games, only me, so I couldn't share. I couldn't couldn't share how to get past like these certain parts or anything with anybody.
That's what the Twitch community is now for.
Exactly.
You you went through the game and now you can share that info with
Exactly. It's
others.
like, "Guys, I can show you how to 100% this game. Don't worry."
Were there any other like big Game Boy like this is what just have to play every day? Um,
For Game Boy games, going through my head, there was a Scooby-Doo game. I don't
mm,
remember the name of the game or anything. I just remember that I played it for like a little bit. I feel like I had an Adams Family game as well, which I was
oh
like,
yeah.
I played that for a bit. The main one that I mostly played was Pokemon. I had Pokemon Blue. So that one was like the one that I played nonstop, had a level 100 Blastoise and everything,
Yeah.
had level 20 whatever else. The starter was always level 100.
um yeah, it's actually it's interesting. So for me with the portable games thing, my first portable console was
Hmm.
actually the Nintendo DS. But
Ooh.
I grew up like during the Game Boy Color into Game Boy Advance era,
Hmm.
and it was kind of just a thing that I think my parents were worried that if I had a video game machine that I could take anywhere, I would
Hmm.
just never stop playing video games.
That's fair.
Um, oops, turned now I have
Whoops.
a 10-year content creator video game career. Sorry, mom and dad.
Whoops. Sorry. It happens.
You were right. I guess I can't stop playing video games, but but yeah, at the time, it was kind of like a big deal with like the friends that had like Game Boy Colors. It was so cool. Like, oh my gosh, you could play video games at school. That's crazy. And it wasn't until kind of later when we picked up a Nintendo DS for cheap. And then because those could play the Game Boy Advance games, I got to kind of catch up on like Pokemon Emerald and things like that. And it was like, oh, yeah. And to be able to finally play Pokemon, because there was no like home console Pokemon.
No.
Other than like they had Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and like Pokemon Stadium, but they weren't the full Pokemon
it wasn't
adventure.
The full Pokemon experience, exactly.
Yeah. So so I had to wait a little bit on that. And it was always just one of those things where it's like, oh, I really want to play a Pokemon someday.
Yep. And then you did. So yippee.
And then I did. And now there's a zillion different ways to play Pokemon now on
I know,
Twitch.
right? There are so many different ways, and I love doing a whole bunch of different challenge runs. They're always so fun to do.
Yeah, no, the Nuzlocke, it just pure genius. Just endlessly.
I know.
Because talk about being able to replay a game over and over.
Oh, for sure.
Like Nuzlocke are on a whole different level.
I don't want to talk about how many times I've replayed through Pokemon Emerald. I've played that game so many times, doing different challenge runs and stuff. That game, again, I would play and make up stories and stuff and everything of it as well.
Oh, Pokemon fits for that like so good.
It does.
Just the whole random aspect, because you can just add like, oh, I have a Mudkips, and this Mudkips is special. This is my Mudkip. So you come up with a whole backstory and
go around and refight trainers and stuff like that. Go into people's like houses and be like, oh, this is my house, or oh, I'm like eating at this restaurant and everything.
Yeah. I'm just gonna hang out in this gym for a bit.
Exactly. I'm the gym leader. Not even fighting anybody, but I'm the gym leader.
What's the most difficult kind of challenge run or like Nuzlocke that you've done in a Pokemon game?
The most recent one that I did a Soullink. If you don't know what a Soullink is, it's essentially a 2-player Nuzlocke. A great video on it is Jade Animation did one with her friend Alpha Rad. Fantastic, great example of it. My boss Ray is also doing one with his friend Shen. Essentially what you do is you're doing a Nuzlocke, except it's 2-player. So if your Pokemon faints, for example, the other person's Pokemon who it's like connected to also faints.
Oof.
So if like my Blastoise wiped, your Charizard, which is like connected to my Blastoise, you wouldn't be able to use it essentially.
Oof.
Yes. And then we also randomized it as well. You can even make it harder by doing a thing where you can only have one type of Pokemon on like the team, like both your teams all together. So only one person could have like a water type. One person can only have like an electric type, etc. So it becomes even more difficult as well. And I was like, I am not playing by that rule. I could not do it, but doing the Soullink was very, very rough.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I've done a few Nuzlocke runs on stream, but I'm not kind of as in depth with Pokemon to go beyond that yet. I'm sure eventually my community is gonna like push me to Josh.
Yes,
you should try torture yourself for our pleasure.
Exactly. Yeah. Which games have you Nuzlocked in?
I think it would be just Emerald and Fire Red. So it's I guess just the Gen 3 games.
That's okay. They're both really good games to Nuzlocke in. If you really want a challenge, you have to do White 2 or Black 2, because those are one of like the hardest games to Nuzlocke in.
Okay.
Because like it's like their level of difficulty and everything. And just like the physical special split is in there. There's also a lot of like upgraded moves and everything. So it's like those ones are very hard. Or like the big challenge is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which is also another horrible one to do a type lock in, or just a Nuzlocke in general.
Oh, Ultra Sun and Ultra. I don't even know if I've played the like a full vanilla playthrough of those yet.
But that's so fair.
But yeah, no, it's again I want to do more Nuzlockes because yeah, they're just really, really great. A
Mm-hmm.
great thing to kind of do with your streaming community.
For sure.
And because I am really into Zelda randomizers, and
Yes.
those are another thing where just you can make those beyond difficult if you want to. Just the amount of
Those
options that are
those look
available.
so fun to do. I watch Axiomat do a whole bunch of them. He'll
Oh
do
yeah,
like Wind Waker and stuff like that, and it's just like, what is even happening? I tried to
yeah.
do a Link to the Past one with a friend recently. We couldn't really get too far. We kind of got like bugged out at the end. It was like, oh well, what can you
Mm,
do? But even then, it was like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
trying to figure
Even
it
and
out.
even if you can't like actually like finish a seed in Zelda
Mm-hmm.
randomizers, like usually the algorithm tries to make it like technically possible.
Yeah.
But even like if you get to a point where it's like, I have no idea what to do, even that's like entertaining in itself
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, well, I I made my best effort and just
Mm-hmm.
this game's gone crazy. Um but just the sheer amount of stuff they can randomize now with like all the items, they
Mm-hmm.
can randomize like the locations. So if you go in like one building, it'll actually randomize which building that takes you to.
Yes.
um and then once you start combining all those different things, just insane, pure
Yeah,
insanity.
for sure. I don't think we could randomize a Hamtaro game. They're very linear, and what you need to do, I don't think we could probably do that because you need very certain ham chats for very particular things. I don't think it would be
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, that and it's funny because there is also some Zelda games that are kind of like that, and whenever because for both Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword,
Mm-hmm.
they technically have randomizers, but
Yes.
both of those had to kind of completely change how the game starts to make
Oh,
them work as
okay.
randomizers.
Interesting.
Because like for Twilight Princess, usually the opening of that is like pretty linear until like you're past like the first 3 dungeons and then Hyrule really opens up.
Yes.
And then Skyward Sword is a way more linear than the tradition or than the other 3D Zelda games like throughout. And
Mm-hmm.
so for Twilight Princess Randomizer, they kind of have to just be like, oh, okay, we're going to open up all of Hyrule from the start as the default.
That would be
Um,
smart.
and then like switch around certain things or have you start with like already having the sword and shield just to prevent things from always being like the exact same starting thing.
Yeah. They would probably have to do
Um,
the same for a Hamtaro. You probably have to open everything up to be able to do that. Instead
yeah.
of just like, okay, now you stopped what is happening here, now you can go to the next level type of a thing. I feel like everything would
Mhm.
probably have to be open then for it to work like that.
Yeah. So is Hamtaro like structured more like you do this level then the next level instead of
Yes.
like the more kind of open thing like Zelda?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Which is interesting because the first one you basically, I feel like you had more ability to kind of like go different ways, where in like the first level you go to, I think it's like a little like forest area, so you go to the forest area and then you'd go back, like completed what you needed to do, go back, and then like two more areas would open up, which
Okay.
would be interesting. Where in Hamtaro Heartbreak, it's just you go to the one area, which is also a forest, if you can imagine creativity. We're gonna reuse the forest level. Go to the forest level, you do what needs to be done, but then it's just like one level unlocks. It doesn't unlock like
Mm,
multiple levels, essentially.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But then so like if you went to the second level, would you like then find a word there that you could use in the first level? Like is it
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a bit of backtracking as well, especially for like the side quests that they have, which you don't
Mm.
necessarily have to complete, but if you want like maximum like heart stuff,
If you want to make
then
all the hamsters happy.
exactly, make them all fall in love.
I guess you could maybe program a randomizer, but you'd have to have like, yeah, all the levels available from the start and
Mm-hmm.
then just switch which hamsters give you which words. But
Yes.
then you'd have to have the whole like algorithm thing the Zelda ones have where it's like, well, you need to have this word to be able to do something with this guy.
Yep.
So we need to make sure that this word is here.
Yep,
That's interesting.
exactly.
Any Game Boy Advance ROM hack
I
developers
know. Let us
watching
know.
right now, let us know. The world needs a Ham
We need a
Heartbreak rando.
Heartbreak random right now.
Was there any other Hamtaro games that that you've played other than the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance one? You said there was a Nintendo DS one that you never
Yeah.
got around to.
Yeah, never got around to that one. I think that's one like is like a sports festival type of thing.
Mm,
I feel like I didn't get around to those ones because I heard like it's not like the other previous two, where that one's like
yeah.
very more like story based, like the ham chats and stuff. It goes like an entirely different approach, which I was kind of disappointed about. So that's why I was like, oh,
Hmm.
maybe I won't play that one type of a thing.
Yeah, like it's a Hamtaro game, like based on the same characters and everything, but it's not like a sequel to the gameplay that you've liked
Exactly.
from this series so far.
Exactly. It's like going from playing Paper Mario to Paper Mario Thousand Year Door to then playing
Mm.
like Sticker Star, and you're like,
Oof.
what happened?
Guys, guys, what are you doing?
Guys, what's happening here? I mean, with like Super Paper Mario, it was a little bit different, but it still had like the story and everything. But Sticker Star, I don't know what's going on over there. And I was like, yep, I'm just not going to play it.
Yeah, not quite what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Exactly. Not quite what I'm looking for at all.
The Thousand Year Door remake coming out, I not to get too in the weeds with Paper Mario, but I really hope that they kind of take the reception from this and that we can get like a proper like new Paper Mario
For
next.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game was great.
Although I'm very excited for the new Mario and Luigi. I'm glad that it's getting another like new installment that seems to very much be like, oh yeah, this is how Mario and Luigi games are supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Didn't really play those ones. I think I played Inside Story. I can't get like the mechanics
okay,
down
yeah,
of like
yeah.
you have to hit it at a certain time essentially. I still can't even get the mechanics done for like Thousand Year Door as well, but I get through it and it's not that much of a repercussion as
Yeah.
opposed to like those games. I feel like there's more of that.
Yeah, those games really focus in on because Superstar Saga, I really like that game because that
Mhm.
one like Game Boy Advance and it just has the two buttons and it kind
Yes.
of like the whole game's designed around okay, like this little handheld has just the two buttons. One is always Mario, one is always Luigi, and
Yep.
it's almost like very rhythm gamey
Yeah.
with how just figuring out how to balance that.
Mhm.
And then Partners in Time, the first DS one is one of the craziest sequels because they added Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, and
Mhm.
they were like, okay, that's the Y and X because we have the two new buttons on the
Yeah.
DS. And that's a good idea on paper. That is a crazy amount of things to kind of keep track of while you're actually playing it.
Yes.
But I almost respect them for just being like, yeah, we got two more brothers, so we need to use the two more buttons on this.
Exactly.
Without even kind of caring about, okay, this is like twice as crazy when this was already kind of a workout with just the two buttons.
Yep.
But brothership, I really like the look of that, and I hope that Nintendo keeps this this Mario RPG kind of golden era going because we also had the Super Mario RPG remake just came out as well.
We did, which we deserved as well. I'm like,
We
it's
did,
the
yeah.
year of Mario remake games. Let's go.
Yeah, just thanks, Nintendo.
Exactly. Not that I don't like and enjoy the platformers, but I just feel like the RPGs just have like a lot more charm to them. That I'm just like, I just appreciate them just like a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the platformers. Like Mario Wonder loved the fact that game came out last year.
Yep.
But the RPGs, like that's where Nintendo gets to really like focus on like the characterization of Mario and like that world and
exactly
all the personalities, like all the different partners and everything for both Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door.
Yep.
Like just incredible characters that it's crazy Nintendo doesn't use them more often.
I know.
For like the spin-offs or Mario Party. Yeah. So here's a question. If so let's say they announce all of a sudden they are going to do a new TV show for Hamtaro. They're going to do same thing like Digimon or like Pokemon have done and do a little revival series.
Yep.
And to tie into that, they're like, we're going to complete the trilogy. You get your third Hamtaro looking for the different hamster words games.
Yes.
What do you think they should add to that? Or what would be like what would be the next step, do you think, for that kind of gameplay?
I feel like making all the different hamsters playable because they all have their own personality
Mm.
and charm. I feel like obviously you got to keep like Hamtaro. Hamtaro is like the Mario of the game, so you got to keep him there. But I feel like it'd be like a cool mechanic if like they had the partner feature where it's like it's not just Bijou, let's throw in Sandy in the mix, let's throw in Maxwell in the mix, and just like I feel like that would be like a really cool mechanic to do.
Yeah, because so much of the appeal kind of the show and like just the whole franchise, I guess, is that look at all these cute hamsters. And
Exactly.
yeah, just focusing on kind of two of them, like I get that for the Game Boy Advance, like you're a little bit limited with like how much gameplay you can shove into that cartridge.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, if we were doing like the next gen Hamtaro
Yep.
game, it would be a really good idea to have all those characters. And
Mhm.
oh man, even just on the Switch, you could like replicate the art style of the anime like so much,
Yes.
like cell shaded and everything. That'd be
Yes, that'd
so
be
cool.
so cool.
Other than the like new characters, is there anything else do you think they could add, or anything they could kind of bring from the TV show to make it even more like the definitive Hamtaro game?
I feel like it could probably like connect it a lot more to the TV show because
Mhm.
in like the first like two games, it's not really like super duper connected to the anime. Like there's obviously like the clubhouse where all the hamsters hang out, but it doesn't like mention the owners of the hamsters. So like
Mm.
Hamtaro's owner is like Laura, I believe her name is. And
Mhm.
so she takes care of Hamtaro and all the stuff like that. And then obviously she goes to school. So I feel like that'd be like a good mechanic as well, where it's like, okay, so Laura's gone to school. We got to go to our clubhouse and, like solve the problem of the day essentially. So that could be like different levels and stuff. And like they could
Mm.
carry over like each day as well, too. That'd be very interesting.
It's interesting that they'd have to like kind of cut some elements of the show, because again, with these like earlier kind of portable games,
Mm-hmm.
like Game Boy Color especially, like yeah, you need to kind of focus on just one really specific thing,
Yep.
or one aspect of the show to kind of build a game around.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, it's kind of a shame that there's not like an ongoing kind of Hamtaro show or something, or that it hasn't gotten to keep having games,
Yeah.
because it would be really easy to kind of incorporate more elements of the show as the technology's gotten better and as you can kind of do more ambitious games with it.
Exactly.
If you could make kind of one final pitch to people that they've never seen Hamtaro, nothing like that, but now they've listened to this episode and they're like, that game kind of sounds interesting. What would be like your final pitch for like why people should play this game, or what makes it so special?
All right. Final pitch. So, obviously, you have the cute hamsters. You have to save the world essentially from this like evil little hamster named Spat who like wears this little double costume and everything, and you basically just have to like save the world from him because he's going around and he's destroying all kinds of different relationships. You have to go to like a forest, you have to go to a ghost haunted manor, you have to go to a beach, you have to go to the jungle, you have to go to this theme park. There's so many different things that you like have to do. There's so many just like silly events as well. There's like I mentioned before, like there's the Master Sword, there's the Power Rangers also featured in there as well too. There's just so much insanity and like creativity that is put into that game. It is not that long of a game as well too. I want to say it's like maybe 10 hours max, but you'll have so much fun and you'll just really enjoy your experience, and you'll learn some cute little ham chat words along the way as well.
You learn to speak some hamster.
Exactly.
I think that genuinely is going to get some people to check it out. Just like you have to stop an evil hamster.
You have to
He
stop
doesn't
an evil
love
hamster. Exactly.
He's trying to stop love.
He doesn't
That's
like it. It's so funny.
the variety in locations is actually that's super cool as well, because I think that that really adds to games kind of as a kid, because we talked a lot about like, yeah, we stay in these first little areas, you make up your own story and everything, but then that almost made it more impactful whenever you did like unlock the next level or decide to like progress forward. And it was like, this is completely different than like the forest or like jungle area or like whatever the opening areas of the game are.
Yep.
It just was it was like a plot twist back then, where it was like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this than I thought there was.
Exactly.
Um,
And it was very different from the first game as well, cuz the first game, like, the areas you would go to, they're very simple. It's like, "Oh, I'm going to the forest." You can go to the beach. You can go to these little ruins. You can go to this garden, and it's like, "Okay, that's it." And then
mhm.
in this one, it's like you can go to a haunted house where it's for couples only, and essentially you have to go through this whole house, but then Hamtaro goes missing at one point, and then you have to play as Bijou, and you have to interact with the
Aw.
ghosts and stuff as well too. And there's also a ghost Beethoven. I don't know, but there is.
Oh.
And then you have to basically team up with the ghost to defeat Spat, so he leaves the manor, and you're just like, what is happening?
I love that. And it's like, obviously this game like has really unique gameplay and like
Mm-hmm.
was doing something cool, even as I said, a couple years before Zelda. But it really just goes to show that like personality is so important in these games.
Yes.
And like when that variety and personality is able to peek through, like that's the stuff that at the end of the day makes something, like, not to say the name of the show, but it makes it your fave game.
It's true.
It's these personal connections and these little, yeah, just that personality. Because it's not, your favorite game is not necessarily always going to be the best game.
No.
Because there's games that we can say like are the best, or like this is the greatest thing I've ever played.
Yep.
But there's still other games where just either because of when we played them in our lives, or just
Mm-hmm.
some special connection to like the source material that just puts it over the top and like can't even really be quantified. It's just something special. And yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I got a tattoo of it, because it's just that special. I just really love and appreciate that game. Could have gotten a tattoo of like any game, like a Zelda game, a Paper Mario game, Pokemon game, anything. But no, I got this little
Well,
Hamtaro tattoo.
no, I think that's awesome because
Yeah.
there's, and absolutely no shade on anyone that has a Triforce
Oh,
tattoo.
absolutely no
Triforce
shade. My
tattoos are
fiance has a
amazing.
Triforce tattoo, so no shade on anybody for getting those types of tattoos.
Yeah,
Absolutely none.
uh, absolutely no shade. But it is like way more unique to have like a little sprite of Hamtaro
Mm-hmm.
on your arm instead of like, yeah, the Triforce of Wisdom or anything like that. I think
Exactly.
that's super cool.
Yep.
So yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's really cool to
Same.
go like in depth on just a kind of forgotten Game Boy Advance little
Yeah.
underrated classic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if the lovely folks at home wanted to find you on the internet, or is there's anything you want to promote, what should they be looking for?
So definitely look forward to. I'm debuting a brand new YouTuber, VTuber on August 1st. So I'm very excited to do that. But mostly you can follow me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GlassesJournal. You can also find me on YouTube as well, where I mostly post like very cozy game content where it's just me playing a game with no like of my voice talking audio, which I feel like a lot of people enjoy. And you can also find me on TikTok under the same place as well.
All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, anyone that's watching this probably know who I am. Josh Busker everywhere on the internet. Recently put out an original rock and roll album. So look that up anywhere you
Ooh.
stream music under the name Josh Busker. And yeah, thank you, Glasses, for being an awesome guest today.
No
Thank
problem.
you to everyone for watching. And I will see you all next week. So I hope you all have a lovely week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.